Apollo was the bigger man, and he handled himself honorably, and he stood up for his wife. Me.
Oh, yeah, we gotta do that again. I don't like my hair.
1, 2.
Phaedra and Apollo met in 1995. She says he saw her on the freeway in Atlanta and flagged her down, something that would clearly never work today. After they met, Phaedra says he followed her home and asked her to be his girlfriend at her doorstep. So I'm sure everyone's thinking the same thing. Why would he immediately ask her that when they had just met? Keep in mind that Apollo and Phaedra have a 5-year age difference. In 1995, Apollo is 17, but Phaedra is 22. He was still in high school when they met, and Phaedra was in her first year of law school. I read somewhere that she claims he lied to her about his age, but I guess we'll never know. Anyway, if you recall in the last segment, I commented about Apollo's first arrest being around that age. According to StarCast.net, Apollo served 4 months starting in December 1998 for a crime that occurred in March 1997. It's not far-fetched at all to assume that Phaedra was well aware that Apollo was a criminal early into their relationship. I also think it's safe to assume she didn't have an issue with it. I say this for 2 reasons. The first reason is Apollo and Phaedra would keep an on and off relationship until 2005, which is when, ding ding ding, Apollo would go to jail again. The second reason is that, according to Miss Angela Stanton, Phaedra was engaging in criminal activity of her own. Now, before I get into this, I want to make it clear that I'm not casting harsh judgment on Phaedra or Apollo. Phaedra played up her Southern Belle character on Real Housewives, which included being very prim and proper. Again, no judgment. I loved it. Still, sometimes it felt like Apollo was the black sheep in their marriage. A lot of people wondered, what does Phaedra see in the next con? How could Phaedra ever relate to someone like that? Well, I'm about to tell you how. Angela Stanton is an author, reality TV personality, and Phaedra's former partner in crime, allegedly. According to Angela, her and Phaedra became good friends in 1999 after she met her through rapper Drama. At the time, Angela was around 19 years old.
2 totally different backgrounds. She had gone to school, came from a perfect family, perfect upbringing, went to grad school, graduated, became a lawyer. I myself was born into a dysfunctional family, suffered from sexual abuse at the age of 5, ended up running away the first time at the age of 9, and pretty much lived in and on the streets for most of my life until I ran into Phaedra. In 1999, my cousin and I were getting dressed and we decided that we wanted to go to the Bankhead Bounce, Atlanta's infamous Bankhead Bounce. And when we arrived there, finally got there that night, we had chilled in the club just about the whole night. And finally, when we were leaving, a young artist that had just hit the scene named Drama, I caught his attention. This is how I ended up meeting Phaedra.
Now remember guys, Drama is Phaedra's longtime client who, in season 9 of Real Housewives, brought some CDs to her law office in a FedEx package that had been mistaken as a bomb. Or, if we're going with Mama Joyce's Hood Report,
from what they had written down, he said he was tired of being messed around. He was looking for you and he was gonna blow you the up.
It's like white on rice.
Scary day for star Phaedra Parks. A man walked into her office looking for her and threatened to set off a bomb. The man was a 90s rapper, Drama.
Can you just tell us a little bit about what happened?
He and I are good friends, probably now for close to 20 years. Drama's one of my former clients. We just spoke on Monday. He said he was going to deliver some music.
And when you walked out of prison, what was your first thought?
I can't even imagine.
Where do I go? What do I do?
I learned so much about the hood.
Phaedra and Angela would become very close, even though, according to Angela, they were polar opposites. Sound familiar? Angela says their circle at the time consisted of hustlers, strippers, prostitutes, drug dealers. Phaedra stuck out like a sore thumb, but still she was very much down. Angela was impressed by the way Phaedra carried herself, her cars, her clothes, and her overall aura. They would become so close that people would speculate that they maybe had a lesbian relationship. Angela says Phaedra introduced her to Apollo in March of 2001. At this time, he would have been 23 and Phaedra 28. According to Angela, the relationship between Phaedra and Apollo was strictly business, with Phaedra being the one who was pulling Apollo's strings. Allegedly, Phaedra and Apollo were remaking fraudulent insurance checks. Angela Stanton says she was the one who would go to the bank, deposit the checks, and later withdraw them. These checks could be as hefty as $30,000, but she would only receive a small cut. Does that sound familiar? Angela also writes in her book that she would write bad business checks on business accounts to buy laptops and other goodies to resell for a profit, allegedly under the direction of Phaedra. After doing this for about 2 years, putting us at around 2002 to 2003, Angela would go to jail for forgery in connection to a prior crime. During her incarceration, Apollo would also go to jail in Newton County, Georgia, in connection to the crime committed on March 3, 1997. RICO is an acronym for Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organizations. Racketeering, or racket, is a coordinated effort made by multiple people to repeatedly earn a profit through illegal activities. According to several court documents, mugshots, and articles, here is what we know about Apollo's first RICO charge. Eddie James Lee Graham, who will be referred to as Graham for the duration of this program, and Apollo were tried together with co-defendant Melvin Thomas. Graham sold 4 stolen vehicles to residents of Newton County, Georgia, and provided false titles to the purchasers. The gag is, when the residents would go to the DMV to register the titles, they wouldn't be able to because these forged titles were from Ohio. In fact, these titles were only copies of one single valid title in the name of William Spearman. Well, Mr. Spearman, according to his ID photo, was actually Apollo Nida. Another defendant would testify against the trio by admitting that he was the one who would search for clean VIN numbers and give them to Apollo. Apollo would then attach these numbers to the stolen vehicles, similar to stealing a car and changing the license plate. In the organization, Apollo was known as the man to get the numbers done. He, along with 5 others, received a 20-count indictment for violating the RICO Act, in addition to multiple counts of theft by receiving stolen property, forgery in the first degree, sale or possession of a vehicle from which the VIN number has been removed, and, get this, possession of counterfeit insurance identification. For his role, Apollo was convicted on the RICO count. Just to make sure we're clear, an indictment is not a conviction. He was a part of a 20-count indictment, but he was only convicted for violating the RICO Act, and he would begin his incarceration on July 28, 2004. Meanwhile, Angela Stanton has been released from jail after serving only 4 months. Remember, Apollo is currently being held in federal custody in connection to the March 1997 crime that I just laid out for you guys. The timeline starts to blur a little here, but it can't be any later than 2003, so just keep that in mind. With her right-hand man in federal custody, Phaedra allegedly introduces Angela to Everett. It's at that time, Angela says they begin a federal racketeering scheme of their own. In this clip, pay close attention to how she describes the crime. It's very similar to what Apollo had just been arrested for.
Hummers, Cadillacs, Corvettes, any hot whip at that time, you name it, we had it. We would basically go to the car lot and write down the VIN numbers of the vehicles that we felt as if we wanted to keep or would make a good sale. Once we recorded the numbers down off of the VIN, we would take them back to Phaedra and Everett. And once they had it, they would make a fake identification card and a registration card to match the vehicle. The next day, you could take their ID and the registration card and go to another car dealership and tell them that this is your vehicle, and they'll cut you a key for a fee of $185. But once we had the key, we would then go back to the car dealerships after the dealership closed and drive off with whatever car that we picked earlier. After that, they would get sent off to the chop shop. Once everything was cleaned up, we take the title, swap the titles out for Georgia titles, and then take them to another car dealership, trade the car in for a car of lesser value, and walk away with the money. Everything had been going fine in our relationship for...
After about 3 or 4 years, putting us around 2005, Angela says her relationship with Phaedra changed. During a routine DMV visit to swap car titles, her cousin, who was also an accomplice in the crime, was questioned by a detective. The detective tells her they've been watching and building a case on them for months. Her cousin is released and tells Angela all of this information. Angela immediately calls Phaedra and Everett. Allegedly, Phaedra suggested they leave the state with the luxury vehicles they already had and take the racket to Tennessee the next morning. Well, that next morning, Everett and Angela were arrested. Angela was convicted and sent to state prison for 2 years. Everett would be sent to federal custody. Angela, who was pregnant at the time of her arrest, would end up giving birth to her baby while handcuffed to a bed. 6 months after that, her mother passed away. Phaedra would attend the funeral on Angela's behalf, and witnesses say they even saw her holding Angela's baby. During her incarceration, Angela says Phaedra would send her cards, pictures, and other trinkets, I guess in an effort to placate her so she wouldn't talk. In September 2005, Angela Stanton is released, and this is when she realizes Phaedra has completely abandoned her. When she tries to contact her good friend Phaedra, she's nowhere to be found. Even worse, when she reports to the parole office, she's confronted by federal agents. The agents tell her she's being charged with 17 counts of conspiracy, auto theft, racketeering, the usual for this group. Angela says she tries to contact Phaedra repeatedly after this. Phaedra had assured her everything would be okay when she got home and that she'd even represent her. Still, Phaedra was not answering the phone. She was ducking Angela whenever she'd visit her office. Angela even had her family members trying to contact Phaedra. Eventually, she would get in contact with her. Phaedra allegedly assured her once again that everything would be okay and that she still had her back. However, when Angela is arraigned, Phaedra doesn't show up. When questioned by the judge, Phaedra says that she won't be representing Angela due to a conflict of interest. What's the conflict, you ask? Phaedra was, in fact, representing Apollo and Everett. Even worse, they were trying to frame Angela as the mastermind, hence her disappearing act. When it's all said and done, Angela would get 3 years supervised release and Everett would get a 5-year prison sentence along with Apollo. In the meantime, Phaedra is on the come up, busy building her social profile on the Atlanta scene. In 2005, when Angela was released, Phaedra was working with more celebrities and had already appeared on Being Bobby Brown. The next time Angela would see Phaedra would be on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. I've just taken you guys on a decade-long ride of Apollo and Phaedra before they were famous. To sum it up and make sure everyone's following along, here's what we know. Or at least what we think we know. In 1995, Phaedra and Apollo meet each other in Atlanta while Apollo is 17 in high school and Phaedra is 22, completing her first year in law school. In March of 1997, Apollo would participate in a racket with 5 other individuals. It is also alleged by Angela Stanton that Apollo and Phaedra are committing various white-collar crimes together. In December 1998, Apollo goes to jail for the crime committed in 97, except they'd only have enough evidence to put him away for 4 months. In 1999, Phaedra meets Angela Stanton via her rapper client, Drama. In 2001, Phaedra introduces Angela to Apollo and she's taken under their wing, allegedly. Matter of fact, anything mentioning Phaedra is alleged. I don't want no smoke, okay, Miss Parks? Back to it. In 2002, Angela Stanton is arrested on a forgery charge for a prior crime. She goes to jail for 4 months. Apollo is also arrested around this time and taken into federal custody for his part in the March 97 crime. It would be for much longer than 4 months this time. In the same year, 2002, Angela Stanton is released after her own 4-month stint is completed for forgery. Phaedra then introduces her to Everett and they start a racketeering scheme of their own. In approximately 2003, Angela Stanton and Everett are arrested while transporting stolen cars. Angela would get 2 years and Everett would get 5 years. In 2004, Apollo would start his 5-year prison sentence. And in 2005, Angela Stanton would be released from jail and start looking for Phaedra.
I'm the ultimate Southern Belle. I get what I want.
Every saint's got a past, every sinner's got a
a future.